There's a chance that it would reside there for a long time, potentially causing a transformation of that skin cell, meaning it could give rise to cancer.
What have you found out so far?
That under certain conditions, when the skin has a defect, there's a larger chance that they come through.
In other words, if the skin has a cut or a burn, the nanoparticles in the experiment seem to be able to penetrate the deeper layers of the skin, the first indication of a potential problem.
But if there's even a small chance that nanoparticles could come through skin, then there's a potential toxicity or long-term risk associated with that process.
How these particles might be handled by the lungs.
Down the hall, Alison Elder is trying to discover what happens when nanoparticles are inhaled, using a machine that simulates a human lung. So far, her research suggests that some nano-sized particles can be inhaled through the nose and end up in the brain, where they cause inflammation.
And it's thought that those processes are related to the more long-term health consequences of exposure to particulate matter.
Which means nanoparticles could damage human tissue under certain circumstances. And although scientists say it's too early to know for sure, they also say it's time to find out.
I think so. Given the diversity in the materials that are being produced and the volume that's being produced around the world, I think that attention needs to be given to understanding more about how these things can cause toxicity under what dosing regimes and according to what properties.
And so that's one of these big questions that we have to be able to answer, like what is known about toxicology of nanomaterials, essentially. And the answer, from a scientific point of view, not that much right now.
Peter Gruder is a nanoscientist who explores the mysterious world at the nanoscale. Using an atomic force microscope, he's able to watch the surprising ways nanomaterials behave.
We've been looking at trying to understand the structure of simple molecules.
Gruder is keenly aware of the great gaps in nano-knowledge. He was one of a group of scientists asked by Ottawa to study the health and environmental risks of nanotechnology. The conclusion? Ottawa should be monitoring nanoparticles and assessing their impact.
But so far, Ottawa isn't taking the advice of its own expert panel. And it's difficult to say whether Ottawa will take any action on nanoparticles at all. They do have government experts looking at the issue, but we weren't allowed to talk to them. Both Health Canada and Environment Canada refused our interview requests.
Nano equipment is one of the biggest hurdles for regulators. Because it's such new technology, the tools needed to monitor nanoparticles haven't even been invented yet.
The problem is if I can't measure it and if I can't define it, I'll have a hard time, I might really miss the important part.
So at this point, products containing nanoparticles are being allowed into the marketplace without knowing what happens when they're rubbed into the skin or washed down the drain.
One of the things we do know is if you release very fine particles into the environment, they're transported through it in very different ways from large particles. So they can get further in the environment, they can maybe be transported through waterways, through soil, into very different areas that you wouldn't normally expect materials to get to. And then we know that they can accumulate in certain areas. What we don't know is whether that's serious or not in terms of how it might in fact affect plants or animals. Unfortunately, they're still entering the marketplace and we still don't have good answers to those questions.
Peter Gruder says consumers should get smart about nanotechnology on their own and not wait for Ottawa.
I think they should educate themselves and then they can apply pressures on the market, they can apply pressures on politicians, they can apply pressures on researchers and scientists. That these are questions I'm interested in having answered or I want to know the answer to. And I would not like to, as a citizen, I would not like to delegate this decision about what to regulate and what not just to the experts in the field, because the experts might have very different interests than what is the public at large.
So I don't think that at this point consumers have much to worry about, but until the experiments are done and the research is in, one would be wise to have caution. Just be cautious. A really neat feature of these quantum dot nanoparticles is that they glow. And I can show you their fluorescence.
The field of nanotechnology is all so new, scientists continue to be amazed by their discoveries. But they are also uncomfortably aware of how much they don't know about the potential and about the risk. Kelly Crow, CBC News, Rochester.
And one more frightening note. Some security experts say they are afraid that terrorists could use nanoparticles to make new and lethal biological weapons. Nanoparticles, friends or foes? Only time will tell. And that's News in Review. Don't forget to check out our website at newsandreview.cbclearning.ca. I'm Carla Robinson. Thanks for watching.